You're watching a Basin PBS live town hall on the ECISD school bond, live from the Ector Theater. Questions? Ask them via the Basin PBS Facebook page, made possible with support from Sandra and Toby Oaf.
Thank you for joining us tonight as we are coming to you live from the Ector Theater in Odessa. Now, tonight we'll be discussing the 2023 ECISD school bond issue. This program is a town hall format and not a debate. We would like to remind everyone that this is a live broadcast. So in the audience, if you're joining us, flash photography, making loud noises or other disruptive actions or comments are not permitted. Now, the goal is to provide more information about this proposed bond that is on the ballot. The views expressed tonight do not necessarily represent the views of this station.
The Ector County Independent School District is going to the polls to try and pass a school bond. The last time voters approved a bond issue for the school district was in 2012. In 2022, the school district proposed another school bond for $398 million with two propositions. Proposition A was asking for $215,255,000 and would have seen funds allocated for maintenance and repairs for school district buildings and upgrades, a new career and technical education center, or CTE, plus classroom technology upgrades. This failed with 61.45%, or 4,786 votes against, and only 38.55%, or 3,003 votes for. That's a difference of 1,783 votes. Proposition B was asking for $183 million. That would have seen funds allocated for a new comprehensive high school design for 2,500 to 2,800 students. This also failed, 64.45%, or 5,043 votes against, and 35.25%, or 2,746 votes for. That is a difference of 2,297 votes. Like I said, both propositions failed. Voter turnout was 7,826 out of 82,257 people. That's a 9.48% turnout. This year, voters will vote on three propositions with a cost of just over $436 million. This year's difference, the bond committee is citing a no tax increase if the issue is passed. Tonight, we'll hear from the experts on how this bond proposal was crafted and, if passed, what it will mean for the district's students, teachers, administration, and infrastructure. We'll hear what's on the ballot and explain each of these propositions.
Tonight, as mentioned earlier, we're coming to you live from the beautifully renovated Ector Theater in Odessa, thanks to the generous support from Sandra and Toby Oaf. Mary Kate Hamilton with CBS 7 and myself, Pat Canty, a member of the Basin PBS board, will co-host tonight's town hall. We would like to stress once again that this is not a debate. The program will follow a town hall format in which panelists will present information about the proposed bond issue and answer questions posed them. Now, if you have questions for our panelists, please feel free to visit Basin PBS Facebook page, and we'll be happy to take your questions through them, and we'll do every effort we can to get them answered for you. We have a lot of information to get through, so please help me welcome tonight our guests. Dr. Scott Murray, ECISD Superintendent.
Thank you.
Chris Stanley, ECISD Board President. Sarah Moore, she's from United Pump and Supply, as well as co-chair of the bond committee. Then we have Anthony Garcia, who is an Odessa High School principal. And finally, we have Jeanette Fierro, a local artist and business owner. Welcome. Now, we'll start our questions, and then about 30 minutes in, after we have some discussion, we'll take a brief break and then come back. But to get things started, I guess I'd like to kind of go with a little perspective. And Mary Kate mentioned it earlier. The last time a bond issue was passed in this school district was over 10 years ago. And the bond issue last year did not pass. What kinds of things did we learn, or did you learn from this last year's failed attempt? What kind of feedback did you receive? And kind of how did you use that in moving forward to create this current bond issue? And I'll throw that open to any one of you who's involved with the process.
Sure.
Well, Pat, I can answer that maybe. There are three of us up here that served on the Community Bond Committee. And we learned from the last campaign in spring of '22 that one of the major concerns was the increase in the tax rate on the property taxes. So that drove the community bond committee that served in '23 to seek a way to put forth a bond proposal without having to raise the tax rate. And thankfully, the school district, Dr. Murray and the administration worked very diligently to try to put us in that position. Maybe Dr. Murray would like to expand on that.
Sure. So we've, really with the guidance of our Board of Trustees, have been able to, over the last 4 years, make some early payments on our bond, much like a homeowner would make early payments on your mortgage. We've been doing that for the last 4 years, and that has allowed us to do several things. One, it has saved our taxpayers over $30 million in interest payments. Two, it has given us bond capacity, so the ability to take on more debt without raising the tax rate. Third, it has increased our bond rating on the market, so when we go out to the market, we will have better rates because of the financial stewardship of our trustees. And so it's a win. The taxpayers have won because of those investments. The future taxpayers, as we have a bond referendum on the ballot, if that passes, they will win as well because the interest rates that we'll receive will be more favorable for the district. And so that was good learning, and then we've executed upon some of those things we've learned.
Now, we've talked about this bond committee and what they all have learned, but I'd like to give the viewers a little bit more context on who makes up this bond committee. Jeanette, I'm going to start with you. Who comprises this committee that crafted the bond proposal, and how did they come up with the propositions and exactly what is on them? And again, what's different about this year's bond than last year's?
I'll kind of piggyback on that. The committee itself, 130 members. Jeanette was a parent member. I'd never met Jeanette before. As many of the parents that were serving on this committee were new to their engagement with opportunities in the district. So it was nice to see some fresh faces and fresh ideas around the table. We had a staff member from every school, so all 45 schools were represented in the room. We had 22 business leaders, community leaders throughout the city of Odessa and Ector County, and then some central office folks that provided some expertise, kind of rounded out that committee of 130. But one of the comments that we kept making, Jeanette, and you may remember some of this, to the committee was how engaged they were. I've been a part of bond committees many years in many different places, but this committee was more engaged than any other bond committee that I'd ever experienced. And so, your comment about that is interesting, but I agree, highly engaged group of individuals and really focused on the work.
A lot of our exercises in the bond committee turned out to be noisy because there was a lot of give and take and a lot of discussion, and what's important to one person, like Jeanette said, another person maybe didn't recognize that need. And so there was, we had several exercises where we had to prioritize by table what issues we would focus on or choose to focus on. So governing is choosing, budgeting is choosing. It's an exercise. Prioritizing for me in this bond, as much as the last bond, prioritizing was easy. it's all a priority. Everything, we've got a lot of need. But I think the situation that we have where we can step forward together, take advantage of this threshold of money that we can put forth in a bond initiative without impacting the tax rate for our taxpayers, me included, I think it's a perfect opportunity to move forward.
And one thing I noticed is when we came together is a lot of collaboration. And truly, coming from the campus, truly impressed with our students that were involved in that process. We had a lot of young men and young women step up to the plate and voice their opinions and talk and speak out loud. And they had an opportunity not only to collaborate with each other, but collaborate with adults and understand different perspectives.
Right.
So as a campus principal, seeing that come from young adults was very impressive, and I was very proud of those kids for being able to speak up and talk about things that they were focusing on, thinking things that they were noticing, because they live in the moment when it comes to being at school. They see what the bond propositions were and what schools need. So it's reality for them. They're in the moment daily. So it was very impressive to see the students step up and voice their opinion.
And from a board perspective, if we look at our county, it's about 902 square miles. And one of our challenges was to attempt to get the best representation that we could in that large geographic area. And I think we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the last issue was 2 propositions. This one is 3. Doctor, if you could start off, kind of give us an overview of the 3 propositions,
Sure.
kind of what each contains, and why 3?
Sure. Kind of start with the why 3. The law in Texas dictates that some items in a bond proposition be separate. And so we do have a proposition B and C in which the law says these items must be separate. So we'll hit those and I'll kind of tell you why. Proposition A is the largest. The total package for the entire bond, all 3, is a little over $436 million. But the largest, about $420 million, is Proposition A, a new middle school for West Ector County. In fact, we are under contract for a piece of property on South Tripp Avenue, so that will be the location. A new career and technical education facility. In fact, property there, really great news. We were interested in a piece of property and had approached the owners of the property, and the owners of the property, unbeknownst to us, was Grow Odessa, and they voted unanimously last week to actually donate the property to the district. So pending passage of the bond, we have a free piece of property to put our career and technical education facility on. We have maintenance and repair items, so all 45 of our schools have maintenance and repair needs, electrical needs, plumbing needs, HVAC needs, et cetera, and so this will take care of some of those. Safety investments as well, everything from a new phone system throughout the district to replacing all of our security cameras on every campus throughout ECISD. A new transition learning center, which targets a specific group of our special education students. A new transportation center and new buses. Our buses travel about 2 million miles a year, and so we replace them on a regular basis. This will give us the ability to do that. So a host of items that are contained in Proposition A. Proposition B, we call the Ratliff Stadium proposition, primarily because everything in there is focused on the Ratliff Stadium complex. It is separate because the complex itself is not on an academic campus, and so it does not sit on a school campus, and there is no school located on that particular area, so it must be separate. The big items in there, lighting of the parking area. We have Friday night lights, and the stadium is well lit, but the parking lot is Friday night darkness. And so we want to add a little bit of safety to the stadium area. The stadium itself is a little over 40 years old, so we'll be providing a concrete overlay to make sure that stadium can last another 40 years. And then some other lighting and turf opportunities around the Ratliff Stadium complex. A little over $8 million in that proposition. And finally, Proposition C affects 2 locations, Odessa High School and Permian High School. At Odessa, it would provide for the construction of a new indoor practice facility. And at Permian High School, they already have an indoor practice facility. So this would replace the turf that is in their 17-year-old facility. So both high schools would be touched as a part of Proposition C. The reason those are separate is because the roof line on these buildings does not touch an academic building, And because the roof line does not touch an academic building, it has to be in a separate bond. And so Proposition A, B, and C.
So a selling point for this issue by proponents of the bonds, such as many of you, is that passing this bond will not result in a tax increase. That is one of the selling points, but I think it's also one of the confusion points for many voters out there. Explain how that will work. Chris, maybe you can explain that.
Sure. Our bond capacity, because of the excellent work from our finance department, has created a situation where we can leverage our excellent financial rating with our bond capacity that gives us the ability to call for the bond without actually having to raise the property taxes in our city. And as a matter of fact, we just ended up lowering the property taxes as a board, a unanimous decision to do that. And so we will be able to, if this bond passes, continue our service payments and then build our capacity, which is our goal. And so.
Now, does that mean, because I know this question's come up both in this community and over in Midland where they're having a similar bond issue. People want to know, okay, well, does that mean that the tax rate will never go up for this bond issue? I mean, it's kind of locked, isn't it?
Sure. So for us, again, as Chris said, the Board of Trustees voted about a month ago to lower the tax rate from $1.17 to $1.01. And what the board knows and what was recommended by the committee is that this bond package will not result in a tax rate increase. So the tax rate is currently $1.01. This bond, if it passes, will not result in an increase in that rate. It will remain exactly the same. Today it's $1.01. The bond passes, it will continue to be $1.01.
But I think some of the confusion comes with the wording on the ballot.
Yeah.
And what needs to be made clear to the voters is that that's a legal piece that has to be on any bond.
What you're talking about is on the ballot.
Ballot,
It
yeah.
says, it will say on the ballot that you will basically face a tax increase.
Yep.
So in 2019, the state legislature required any school district in Texas that puts forth a bond referendum that language be a part of the bond referendum language itself. And so the last sentence must say by law, this is a tax increase. What our board has voted on and what was recommended is that the rate itself, which again is $1.01, that rate will not change.
So when voters go out to the polls, if they haven't done so already, early voting is open. When they go to vote, it will say this is a tax increase. And so they may have a moment that says, well, they told us that there wouldn't be, just to be clear.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And what we've said is there will be no tax rate increase. And so this is what the voters need to understand. The rate will remain $1.01. That rate will not increase. Regardless of what that language says, the rate will remain $1.01.
I think that's important.
So, Anthony, you know, we talk, laying this out, everyone talks about, you know, we need this, we need this, we need a new phone system, we need repairs, we need new buses. But I think some people probably have a hard time getting their arms around what that looks like. Can you kind of give some examples just from your own experience of the conditions in some of these schools and some of the specific types of things that need fixing or upgrading?
Sure. Just like infrastructure, I mean, the buildings need consistent repairs. I can give you an example from today. I was just, before I got here, I was at a volleyball game, and one of our sidewalks was peeling up. So we had to get maintenance to come out and then put some signs and put some tape around because we don't have the things to fix it immediately. So it's something that we're going to have to actually put a work order in and get fixed as soon as we possibly can. But things are wearing out. Things are being used daily, consistently. We have at Odessa High School 3,800 students, and they're in and out of the buildings, and they're using the facilities on a regular basis. So when we're talking about plumbing, we're talking about backing up septic systems, we're talking about electrical, we're talking about security cameras, because they do go in, things go in and out, or they get worn out because, like I said, they're consistently being used. Other examples is that, like I said, we have lots of kids in and out throughout the day, coming in and out of buildings, doors, even the hydraulic systems in doors get worn out. Where we are trying to be as safe as possible, make sure all exterior doors are locked, the doors get worn out. So we're always consistently working on fixing the doors. And this is a daily thing. that we're putting in work orders, or we ourselves are bringing out tools and fixing some of the things that we can prepare. And this is just Odessa High School, but from what I've talked to my peers, it's in other campuses as well, elementary, middle school. They're seeing some of the same issues where infrastructures, the buildings are being used consistently and things are in need of repair at a consistent basis.
Jeanette, have you seen, I mean, obviously being on the committee, you got to see some of these things. What are some of the anecdotes that stood out to you?
Yes, so that was one of the biggest things that stood out to me. With this bond committee, they actually took us on tours to see campuses on the east side of town and the west side of town. My son and I, we went to both. I wanted to go to both tours. I wanted to see as many schools as I could. My older son, attends Bonham Junior High. That was one of the schools that we visited. And wow, there was quite a bit at Bonham. The biggest things that stood out in their choir room, for example, their heating and air. Their AC doesn't work very well. It's kind of throwing a Band-Aid on something that you should not be throwing a Band-Aid over. You're just kind of trying to get by. And in that room, being in there, and I was just in there with maybe a dozen people, and they spoke about how hot it gets in that room. I could not even imagine being in there with 100 kids, which is, a choir, and having we just had the most brutal summer, what felt like a terrible summer. I could not imagine those kids having to be in that room singing, and so that one really stuck out to me. Another one was my son so before he went to Bonham, he went to Wilson and Young, which is another middle school, and he would tell me, hey Mom, there's holes in the ceiling. Well, what it was is some of the HVAC will leak condensation, and those tiles, the ceiling tiles, would just need to be off because there was no point of leaving them up there because the condensation would just ruin the tiles. And we did also see that at Bonham. I mean, it's 60 years old or something, right? 65, I believe Bonham is. Just seeing all those different pieces that you're just like, wow, this is not a small fix. This is something quite significant.
One point I think to add to that is some context. So the average building, or excuse me, half of the buildings in ECISD are 61 years of age or older, with our oldest school being 85 years of age. And so as we talk about buildings, the age of our facilities is important to keep in mind. So half are 61 years or older, with the oldest at 85.
Well, I think too that a lot of times we think of repairs and maintenance as in relation to our own homes or our own office buildings, which don't compare in size to facilities at the school district. So when you talk about replacing an electrical system, it's not that we just need a couple of more wall outlets. We need to replace the entire wiring, because today is the day of electronics, and we need the power in the schools to be able to run all of the devices that we have, computers. All the telephones now run off of electronic things. Also, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, all of the repairs and maintenance that are budgeted for in this bond are to their life cycle replacement issues, not just a fix or a Band-Aid, but actually replacing. And someone quoted a figure of how many square feet we have in the school district. It was staggering. And when you think of, I don't know if any of you recall that number.
I don't remember.
It was an amazing amount of square feet in our school district. And when you think about having to heat and air condition that amount of space by itself, it's a big order. It's a lot of things to do.
Another big one that stood out for me was the security cameras. There's several schools that have blind spots, and that's concerning. As a mom, that's concerning. We know what happens. You see every day how rough it can get in school sometimes, and not having those cameras or having blind spots, that was another issue for me that I saw, like, okay, this is a safety thing.
Yeah, for example, going off of the safety, is that when I first came to Odessa High last year, we walked the campus and then we're checking our camera system to make sure we were in a position where our campus was safe. And through our walking, we already have, I would say, over 100 cameras. We needed to add another 50 to make sure that our campus was going to be safe, that we were able to see all the blind spots, so we didn't have any issues or concerns with our students and what was going on on campus. So that safety and security is a big push.
So if I can chime in for a moment, I think the board's job was to listen to that bond committee. And when you have parents and administrators and community members so willing to share those experiences with us, our duty was to listen. And so that learning environment that you heard all these people talk about, if that learning environment isn't conducive to the act of learning and excelling our students, then it has to be changed, it has to be fixed.
We have a question from one of our Basin PBS viewers that I'd like to get to, and they ask, if the bond does not pass, obviously there are still needs on these campuses, how does that maintenance happen, and where would those funds come from should the bond not pass? This can be for anyone.
Sure. So those funds come from the community. The state of Texas is very clear. The state provides funding for public schools, for what we call the maintenance and operation budget, which is how we operate on a daily basis. 87% of that is salaries for our employees, and then 13% of that is to pay for other expenses, our electric bill, our gas bill, the water bill, the food to feed our kids, et cetera. The other side, the bond side, which is what we're talking about tonight, pays for capital maintenance expenditures, new buildings, the renovation of buildings. The state does not provide funding for those. Your local community provides those dollars. And so if the bond doesn't pass, there is no money for those major capital items. And so when at Odessa High School, when the air conditioning goes out and it's a $2.5 million replacement, there isn't funding available. The local community provides those dollars, and that's what a bond is for. So if the bond doesn't pass, our system, we will be hurting. And so if we have to pay to replace the air conditioning at Odessa High School at $2.5 million, that will mean personnel cuts. We will see that affect our kids in the classroom. We will see that affect many personnel, because again, 87% of our budget is people. And so cutting those will be used to fix air conditioning systems or other needs. We have to operate schools, so our community has a responsibility to provide for facilities, the construction, the renovation, and the capital maintenance, and then the state and local property taxes pay for the rest.
Yep. And for us, we continue to roll up our sleeves and get to work. I mean, the work doesn't stop. We continue to do what we do to provide for kids and provide for our staff members. So if the bond does not pass, we're going to continue to do things we've been doing. Like was stated, is that we may have to put some Band-Aids on some things, but we're going to continue to open the doors every day and greet kids and greet families, and because the work doesn't stop. If it doesn't pass, we're going to do what we can to support our kids and support the community.
Just to comment on that, that's the answer that 4,200 employees will give, but man, is his job going to be more difficult.
Right. That's why I think especially now that we have this opportunity to pass a bond without impacting or changing the tax rate is so important, because these opportunities don't roll around all the time. We have our school administration and board of trustees to thank for getting the school district in this position financially so that we're able to do this. And it's a community thing. It's not, I mean, if you think about it, it's not really so much about the minutia of the details of what's going to get fixed and whatnot. It's a community responsibility we have to take this opportunity and take a step forward, all of us together. The Community Bond Committee worked very hard to try to reach all areas of the county, every program, every student, every campus. And I think I wouldn't claim the bond to be perfect. Nothing in this world is perfect, but I think it's a very equitable and fair spread of the amount of money we had to work with.
I had one lady that I was speaking with on the bond, kind of just very brief. I was just like, hey, you're voting, kind of. And her response to me was, oh, my kids go to private school. And just kind of, and it just, I was like, but you live here, you know? And that's what I feel that those parents need to realize is you live in this community. Why wouldn't you look into that and get informed on that and vote on that. Your community needs plumbers. Your community needs construction workers. Your community needs, you know, veterinarians. It needs all of those things. And things like the CTE building, that's what feeds that workforce. So when she said that, I was just like, what? It just kind of took me back because it's everyone. It's the community. That's the foundation of every community is education. And that's what people need to click to, that this is something, you're not planting this tree expecting to sit in the shade. You're planting it for the future. You know what I'm saying?
We have gotten lots of questions about something that's referred to as a TRE. So, someone please explain the difference between the tax ratification election and this particular school bond.
So a tax ratification election in this community was held in 2017, I believe, 17-18 timeframe. And a TRE, tax ratification election, provides dollars for the general fund. Teachers' salaries, the salaries of all employees, and the basic maintenance and operations of the school system. And so several years ago when a TRE was passed in our community, it allowed us to raise the teacher's salary from $44,000 a year, which is where it was at that time, to $53,000 a year. Today, that salary is $60,000. Actually, I'm right. I'm at $61,000, a little over $61,000 today in ECISD, really to the good work of the school board, but also because the community passed that tax ratification election. Today, we're talking about a bond package, and so the bond feeds a different pot of money, and you don't mix the two. They are separate. So a TRE raises and small maintenance items and the daily operation of the school system, and a bond election is for new schools, capital improvements, renovations, capital maintenance projects. And so that's the piece we're talking about today. Two different pots of money. The taxpayers have to approve both, and then they feed the two different pots that we operate as a school system.
Okay. Sarah, getting back to kind of how this cake was made by the committee. Obviously, there was a committee in the previous bond.
Yes.
And they did all sorts of research, and then y'all got your start. Did you start from scratch this time around, or were there things that you kept, and kind of what are some of the big differences? Because I do know that this one is going to be slightly more than the previous one, and kind of talk about what you did as far as your research and your work, what you kept,
Correct.
what's different, and why is this more expensive than the last one?
Right. I joined the Community Bond Committee in 2021. Actually, there had been a Community Bond Committee that worked in 2019, is that correct? And their work was halted when the pandemic hit and COVID-19. So when the Board of Trustees decided to reseat a Community Bond Committee, we were able to pick up where that committee had left off. And so with the architect's help, we and the school district administration as well, we refreshed all of that information and data and absorbed that. And then after the 2022 bond failed, I again signed up for the Community Bond Committee again. And by that time, we realized how important not raising the tax rate was to the public, which I understand completely because I am also a taxpayer as a business owner and owning a home here. So I get that, and we wanted to specifically address that situation first and foremost. And so the difference in the amount of money for the two bonds, 22 and 23, is basically in 22 we had provided for a new high school. In 2023 we opted not to put the new high school on the bond because to build a comprehensive high school cost something like $320 million. And with the amount of money that we had to deal with and not raise the tax rate, that was going to take a lion's share of the funds we had available, and we wouldn't be able to reach so many different aspects of the district where the money was needed. By building a new career technology technical education facility, by adding a middle school, by expanding the career and technical education class space, we can relieve somewhat the overcrowding at the high school level. 400 students, at least 400 students can choose to have the career and technical education facility as their home high school, where they can stay there all day, get their core studies as well as their chosen field of study, whatever that might be. In addition to those 400 students, we would now be able to transfer 2,000 students in and out of Permian and OHS during the day to pick up their career and technical education fields of study. So we can relieve the overcrowding to some extent by getting the CTE building done, and then also relieve some of the overcrowding at the middle school by constructing that new middle school in West Odessa, which is sorely needed because those students that live in West Odessa have to travel by bus or have a parent take them in to a campus inside Loop 338 every day. Lots of traffic and long bus rides. So those were basically the differences. And the threshold of money that we had, again, was just the threshold that resulted from the Board of Trustees paying down debt and saving the district from having to pay a lot of interest that we would have been stretching out.
We have another question from Facebook. This question says they understand that the indoor practice facility at Permian High School was paid for by private funds. My understanding is that is the case. And so they ask, if that is the case, why should public funds be used to build the one at Odessa High? Dr. Muri, obviously you oversee both Permian High School and Odessa High School, so maybe you can start.
Sure, I'll start with that and then let community members talk about this. So yes, there is an indoor practice facility at Permian High School. Over 17 years ago, that high school in that part of our community did raise funds to build that facility on their campus. On Odessa High School, there isn't an indoor practice facility. The school has tried. Odessa High School has attempted numerous times to raise those funds, but have not been able to do that within their own community. And so the Board of Trustees felt, as did I as the superintendent, this is the right thing to do. From an equity perspective, the students at Odessa High School deserve the same opportunities as the students at Permian High School, and vice versa. So there are things that we want to make sure that all of our high school students experience, and this is one of those opportunities that we're able to provide not only to the students at Permian, but to the students at Odessa High School. But let the committee, it was recommended by the committee, but I'll let them speak to why this item is there.
Yes. In 2016, I think it was 2016, Odessa High School received funding to construct a performing arts center, which is used for, in fact, Dr. Muri makes a State of the District speech from there every year. It's used for different meetings and gatherings in the community. It's a fabulous facility, and we love it that Odessa High School has that facility available to showcase the band and orchestra and choirs and any kind of fine art type studies. However, Permian High School badly needs their auditorium refurbished, renovated, remodeled. Their auditorium is the same auditorium that was there when I went to high school, and I was there in the 70s. So I think the seats may have been recovered once, but other than that, they drastically need upgrades in their sound and lighting. We want, the entire band can't even fit into the theater there. So, as Dr. Muri said, in terms of being equitable between the two comprehensive high schools, we see there's a good portion of the bond that goes to fine arts to replace instruments, to provide choir risers at the middle school level, to provide uniforms for ROTC, mariachi, and upgrades to the ROTC facility as well. But a big piece of that fine arts piece of the bond goes to the fine arts, or excuse me, the Performing Arts Center, which is what is intended for Permian High School. So each comprehensive high school gets a big piece of something.
In fact, that investment, a little over $10 million in that auditorium at Permian High School will be invested.
Right.
Let's talk about the new middle school in West Odessa. You know, the old adage, build it and they will come. Well, you build it and you're going to obviously have plenty of students there to fill it from day one. But staffing, it's another issue. What is your strategy or your plan, given the fact that, you know, in recent years, it's no secret that districts all over West Texas have a hard time attracting and keeping talent?
Yeah, so two answers. One is, you know, from in 2019, we started the school year with 350 teacher vacancies. This year we started with 36. And so because of the stewardship of the board, we've been able to make, and on the TRE maintenance and operations side, if you will, we've invested a lot of money in our people, increasing compensation, developing a lot of pipelines, working with local colleges and universities. We provide free tuition along with our college and university partners for many of our teachers entering the pipelines, building the capacity of leaders on our campuses. So a lot of investments in those areas have helped us attract and retain and then build our own capacity. Secondly is when the school opens, we will move staff. So if we remove, you know, 500 students from Ector Middle School and put them into this new environment, or 400 students from Crockett, the teachers will go with them. We currently educate almost 7,000 middle school students in our district, and so we will reshuffle the students and we will reshuffle the adults as well. It may require a few more folks, but not really any more teachers, more support staff individuals in that new school.
The district has done a great job with helping support campuses when on filling positions, like Dr. Murray stated. Very proactive on helping from within. We work with our local colleges on bringing individuals in to support our campuses, whether it be a program that we use called Opportunity Culture, where we're building with capacity within so that we are basically coaching up our staff. So it's been a great opportunity for the district, and like I said, from my perspective, I've been a principal for a few years. I've noticed a big shift in talent development, investing in people, investing in talent, because our people are staying. Retention is, people are staying here, people want to be here. So the need for another campus, I believe we're well within our district to provide that support.
And I'd like to go back to the other question for a minute and then kind of go back to this recent one. When we look at what keeps a kid in school, we're looking at statistics of extracurricular activities, the fine arts, and when we have children that are engaged in their campus, they're graduating at a much higher rate. So we have statistics that point to a child who participates in the fine arts and another extracurricular activity having 98 to 100% graduation rate. So when we talk about equity in these things with athletics, we know that what we do for our student athletes is going to help those kids graduate. We also know when we build things like new middle schools, that means new middle school band, new middle school orchestra, new middle school choir, and when you have overcrowded facilities, some kids don't participate. And so that equity across the district, across our county, and I want to say that again, 902 square miles, and there's children in almost every one of those miles, and to give them that ability to succeed and be excellent in those areas they want to be, that's our job.
I think that's a huge part of this bond is that school being located off of Tripp Avenue. I mean, I think the farthest west junior high is Crockett.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm a lifelong Odessan, and I am blown away at how much the west side has grown. The west side is not the same west side where I would party. The west side is its own, I mean, it's like a whole other city out there, honestly. So that's one of the biggest things that I see for this bond is putting that campus out for I think it's like 1,000 students that they
Will house.
attend there.
That's
That's
right.
a lot of children.
That's right.
That's a huge.
And a comprehensive middle school.
Yes.
So that's everything.
And I'd like to add too, we haven't talked about South Odessa, but of course most everyone that lives in Odessa is familiar with Ector Middle School. And I like to refer to Ector as a landmark campus in our school district. It has served, it's the only one that has served both as a high school and a middle school. Ector is a bright spot in the neighborhood. where it's located, and the blocks surrounding Ector, in fact, all of South Odessa, are very proud to have that campus there. We just learned last school board meeting that the district is going to take that school back under its umbrella, and so it will once again be a comprehensive middle school. And it is also at the same time one of our oldest campuses. So it needs a lot of attention, and a large, I think the largest piece of the repairs and maintenance for any of the middle schools is going to Ector. So I think that's should be a signal to the neighborhoods in South Odessa, as it is in West Odessa, that we have heard you. We know that these things are important to you. We want to reinvest in those areas with this school bond. And between Ratliff in North Odessa, the two comprehensive high schools, Permian and OHS, getting big pieces of this, also West Odessa and South Odessa, and then the frosting on the cake is the Career and Technical Education Facility that we have so gladly received and so proud to receive the donated property for. That makes this whole bond pretty hard to pull apart or criticize, I would think. And all of it comes at no tax rate increase to us. Great opportunity. It's a wonderful way to take a step forward for our community.
902 square miles. You all say this is a comprehensive bond, but let's talk voter turnout. The 2022 bond that failed, it only had a 9% voter turnout spanning all of Ector County. Maybe we can talk to the committee members. How can you energize voters? It's one thing to convince them to be in favor of the bond. It's another thing to get them to the polls. We're exactly 2 weeks away from Election Day, and early voting is underway.
Right.
So for any of those people that were, of course, the bond committee, I was one of those that would always stand and talk about how important it was to vote. Me, myself, what I do is I don't shut up. I tell anyone and everyone, like, hey, get out there, get out there. For me, I'm Latina. In Odessa, in Ector County, I should say, we're over 65% Latinos. And it's like, why does that not show in the polls? Mm-hmm. It's very, very upsetting for me because I don't see that in the polls. So you can ask any of my friends, they're going to be like, oh, you know, I viene Jeanette with her voting. Because it's so important, and that's what people need to understand. So for me, it's talking to people constantly, sharing constantly. Social media, that's the world that we live in. Everybody is doing this now. And so that's what I put out there on my platforms, on my pages, like, hey guys, you know, early voting has started. Hey, register to vote here. I've even gotten myself deputized to get people to register to vote because this is important. This is what is required for these incredible goals. Mm-hmm. You know, is we need enough people to care. And if we're not out there talking about it, sharing it, it's not going to happen. It takes us doing those things, really being out there and talking to people to get that done.
Right. Yeah. I would also say that I feel very fortunate that all three of our chambers here in Odessa have been very supportive. They've all sponsored events to get the vote out, to register people to vote. Greatly appreciated. It's now too late to register to vote for this election, but if you are registered, we all get apathetic from time to time about what is necessary or what we have time to do. Everybody's busy. But this is such a great opportunity. And I might say, you know, we all live right here in Ector County. We all, I said at lunchtime today, we all breathe the same air, much like President Kennedy made reference to in a speech back in the 60s when he was in the office as president. He said, you know, we all share this same planet. We all breathe the same air. We all hope for our children's future, and we're all mortal. So that really resonates with me because we all live right here in Ector County. It doesn't matter if you're north, south, east, or west. We're all sharing the same same acreage here in Ector County. And we have responsibilities. We all hope for our children's future. I don't know of a single parent that doesn't want the lifestyle or the life for their children to be better than what they've had. And as residents of the county, we owe it to the next generations of students who come through the school system. We owe it to them to provide them with the very best we have to offer. There's no reason why students should have to learn with no ceiling tiles in the ceiling, or doors that don't close properly, or lack of cameras. There's just no reason for us to have that kind of a situation when we have an opportunity like this. And the final thing I would say is too that we're all mortal, okay? It's as I'm beginning to age, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but my doctor keeps telling me more often that I need to do A, B, and C to stay healthy because I'm getting older now. And it makes you realize that we are mortal. And so there will be a time when you and I are not here any longer. And we need to focus on how are we preparing the next generation that's coming through our school district today. How are we preparing them for the future and for the challenges that they're going to meet? Plus, they're going to need to take care of us as we get older. And so I want to raise business owners and managers and nursing, doctors, lawyers. I want good people to be able to step forward and lead our area, our corner of the world on into the future, and to do it adequately.
And at the campus level, it's promoting and helping people understand how the bond can support our campuses, can support our schools. Mm-hmm. We had some district personnel come and present to our staff to help them understand what the bond is. And my job is to help promote the bond and help them understand as well, answer those questions that they may have more, they need more answers to. Recently, we had we had a drive for our students. We had over close to 100 students register to vote, and we were promoting the bond through those students. And that was one of the highest that we've had in many years of a turnout of students registering to vote on campus. So giving students that opportunity, letting them know that they have a voice, and then providing them the idea and the material that they need to understand why you're registering, so that you can have that voice, and there's something that you can do about it. So at the campus level, like I said, we're just continuously motivating our teachers. For example, show us your sticker, show us your sticker, get a jeans pass. I mean, things like that. Just encouraging individuals to go out and vote, knowing that it's important to our community, important for our schools. So that's one of the things that we're pushing at the campus level.
One of the things that I like to tell my friends when I ask them, oh, I don't vote. I'll be like, I bet the guy that signs your check does. Yeah. I bet your landlord does. These people vote because it matters, because it counts. And so when I hear somebody say, oh, it doesn't really, that's nothing. And yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's right.
We have another question from a member of our audience. It goes as follows. If the bond issue is passed, how will it address future growth of the district and the community?
So, yeah, so a couple things. We know demographically we are growing as a community. Part of the research that they looked at said that our community will continue to grow for the next several years. Middle school, so a new middle school gives us 1,000 more seats in our middle schools. We'll take care of that age. In addition, when the new career and technical education facility opens, the backfill, we will be able to add a 400 to 500 student middle school program at New Tech Odessa. So New Tech will become a 612 campus. And so that's 1,500 more seats at the middle school level with the passage of the bond. At the high school level, again, the career and technical education facility will pull 200 students from Permian, 200 students from Odessa. While a campus of 3,800 may not notice a missing 200 students, they'll still need some elbow room. It begins to give us a little bit more capacity at the high school level. And then we'll be looking at, after the passage of the bond, our elementary scenario. We know that we have elementary needs as well as high school needs, and so that's the next opportunity we have. But this is a good first step to address the future growth of our community.
And if I may chime in there, the economic reports from our friends like Ray Perryman state that by 2050, the world's going to need 50% more energy. and we are the energy epicenter in this country. And so, you know, I understand people say that our community ebbs and flows, but our numbers say that families stay, and we see that growth in our enrollments. And this year, we expected 33.5. We're already at 33.7.
We have time for one more question, and so I'm going to go for a general one. In your opinion, what is the most critical element of this proposal? Dr. Muri?
We have about 1 minute.
So I think it's addressing the critical needs that we have academically, pre-K through 12th grade. It gives us the facilities that we need, the tools that we need to appropriately educate the kids that we serve every day.
Our students, that's the most important part of this bond.
The future, who we're raising, the next generation that's coming up is the focus for me.
Our students, the kids, that's what matters.
Kids, that was the first thing, kids, the kids.
Great. Thank you very much for your participating tonight, for your input. That is all the time we have tonight for this program. I'd like to thank our panelists, Dr. Scott Muri, Mr. Chris Stanley, Ms. Sarah Moore, Mr. Anthony Garcia, and Ms. Jeanette Fierro for joining us tonight for this important town hall. Now, early voting has already begun and will close on Friday, November 3rd. Voting will take place on Tuesday, November 7th. And we would also like once again to thank Sandra and Toby Oath for generously supporting tonight's town hall and to the entire staff of the Ector Theater. A special thanks to the Basin PBS board and staff, along with Elizabeth Reed Yeager family and the Anwar family for their support of Basin PBS. And of course, we'd love to thank you, our members, for all of your support. If you are not a member and would like to become one, please visit our website at basinpbs.org. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Pat Canty, and for my wonderful co-host, Mary Kate Hamilton, thank you very much for attending, and a very good night.